In June of 2017, Wilmington, Delaware witnessed one of the most shocking and violent crime sprees in the city's history. At the center of it all were two men, 37-year-old Ryan Bacon, a local rapper who performed under the name Buck 50, and his associate, Michael Pritchett. What began as a personal feud quickly spiraled into an interstate manhunt that left one woman dead and a 6-year-old child permanently injured. According to federal prosecutors, the violence started with a rap song. Bacon released music that labeled a former friend, known in court documents as MS, as a rat, or a snitch. In street culture, that label is dangerous, and it ignited a public feud. Soon, Bacon, Pritchett, and their associates were in an open conflict with MS and his crew. Tensions escalated. In May and June of 2017, Bacon and Pritchett actively searched for MS in an effort to kill him. On June 6, their pursuit turned deadly. That morning, Bacon, Pritchett, and other conspirators kidnapped MS's girlfriend, 28-year-old Keyonna Perkins, outside her apartment in Glasgow, Delaware. At gunpoint, Perkins was forced into the trunk of a car. Prosecutors later revealed that the kidnappers used her cell phone to try to track MS's location. That same day, the group finally caught sight of their target. They opened fire on MS but missed. Perkins remained in the trunk, terrified, as the hunt continued. After the failed shooting, Bacon and another man drove her across state lines into Elkton, Maryland. There, in a wooded area, she was executed. Court records show she was shot 5 times. While testimony differed on who pulled the trigger, what was clear was that Perkins was murdered as part of an escalating vendetta that had nothing to do with her. The crime spree didn't stop there. Pritchett and another conspirator continued chasing MS into Wilmington later that same day. They tracked him to the probation and parole offices in New Castle and followed him as he left the building in a white sedan. The pursuit carried into the streets of Wilmington. When MS stepped out of the vehicle, Pritchett pulled up alongside him. A passenger leaned out the window of Pritchett's truck and fired multiple shots. Once again, MS was not struck. But this time, an innocent child was. A 6-year-old boy, riding in the back seat of his mother's SUV, was hit in the head by one of the stray bullets. The boy survived, but the injuries were catastrophic. Federal prosecutors described them as severe and permanent. This string of violence, moving across multiple jurisdictions and even state lines, brought together law enforcement from the FBI, Wilmington Police, Delaware State Police, New Castle County Police, and Elkton, Maryland authorities. What unfolded was an investigation that stretched over years. By 2018, charges were filed in U.S. District Court. The case was large and complex, with multiple defendants. Some of the men had ties to drug trafficking organizations, and prosecutors laid out a picture of a feud fueled by personal betrayal, rap lyrics, and street retaliation. One of the most surprising turns came in 2022, when Bacon entered a plea agreement. Facing the possibility of life in prison if convicted at trial, he chose to plead guilty to stalking, kidnapping, and firearms charges. What made his plea unusual was that he did not agree to testify against his co-defendants. His lawyer, Edson Bostic, told the court that Bacon wanted to take responsibility for his role but would not become a government witness. Prosecutors still described Bacon as deeply involved. They said he helped organize the hunt for MS, participated in the kidnapping, and fired at the intended target. His associate, Michael Pritchett, also pleaded guilty. Both men faced decades behind bars. In federal court, Judge Joshua D. Wolson sentenced Bacon to 30 years in prison. Pritchett received 25 years. U.S. Attorney David Weiss called their actions a shocking disregard for human life. The FBI described the crimes as acts of retribution that crossed all lines of decency, pointing to the execution-style murder of Perkins and the shooting that paralyzed a young boy. In court filings, Bacon's defense tried to distance him from the actual murder of Perkins. His lawyer argued that Bacon did not pull the trigger, though prosecutors maintained that the group as a whole was responsible for her death. Regardless of who fired the fatal shots, Perkins's life was cut short simply because she was connected to a man her kidnappers wanted to kill. The human toll of June 6, 2017 is still felt. A young mother is gone forever. A child's life was permanently altered. And two men who once imagined rap fame and street respect are now locked away for decades in federal prison. The story of Ryan Bacon and Michael Pritchett is another example of how quickly music, beefs, and gang culture can bleed into real-world violence. What started with a rap track and an insult ended with murder, mayhem, and shattered lives. Today, Bacon is serving 30 years behind bars. Pritchett is serving 25. Their names are a reminder of a summer day when Delaware's small streets were turned into a battlefield, and innocent lives paid the price.